thoughts in my mind, I can't get them out, no matter how hard I try. I need you and your heart next to mine. Yeah, I'm all about keeping it you and I. When you're here, you spark chemical reactions. Your aura strikes like lightning. Got no words, I'm just drowning in attraction. Only one way to describe it is electric.
Alright, so guys, before muna tayo mag-build is i-demo ko sa inyo saan po yung murang legit na Windows 10 Pro OEM CD key global. Ito, dito po makikita sa VIP CD key ng website. So yun na makikita yung Xtian. For example, ito yung video. You can check na lang dito sa may description. Yan yung ad. Click nyo lang yun. For example guys, ito yung price. So this is $21. Meron silang promo ngayon. So, meron siyang 20% off. Now, makakakuha kayo ng 25% discount. Mas malaki pang discount ang makukuha nyo when you type my coupon code. Okay? So, let's say for example, buy now muna tayo. So, before tayo mag-buy now, you need to sign in. So, click nyo lang yan. Yung Facebook. Make sure na nakalagin yung Facebook nyo. Alright, so, that's it. Buy now tayo. Yan. So, nandito guys, makikita nyo to. So, that's $21. And so, what's the coupon code? So, that's XT and C. Okay, so apply natin. Alright, so nakita nyo guys, it's $15 na lang babayaran natin. So magkano na-save nyo? That's $7 po yung na-save nyo. Now, na-type yun ng XTNC, submit order tayo. So anong ginagamit ko dito? So ang na-try ko lang kasi is PayPal and yung Paymaya. So Gcash I think pwede, pero kung hindi gumagana, you can use Paymaya or yung PayPal. So pay now. Dito, i-type nyo lang to or i-complete nyo lang yung mga details dito. Let's say for example, ginamit nyo yung Paymaya nyo. You can type your card number, yung validity or CVV. Ayan, you can type it here. And yung billing address. Kompletuhin nyo lang yan guys. And after that, dito sa may PayPal, kung di nyo gagamitin yung PayPal, you can select no, I don't want an account. Kung wala pa kayong PayPal, you can create it here. Assuming na na-complete na to, then i-continue na lang. So, Xtian, hindi ba na-hack yan? Sa akin guys, sa experience ko, wala pa naman akong na-experience na hack dito. Okay, kaya good set to. Legit po itong website na to. So far, hindi pa po ako na-hack dito. Alright, so Xtian, nakapag-purchase na ako. Makikita nyo yan guys dun sa notification ng cellphone nyo if ever nag-transact na yung payment nyo. So, pupunta lang po kayo dito sa user center. Makikita nyo yun. If ever na-purchase nyo na yung key. Punta lang kayo dito sa may purchase orders. Yan, makikita nyo the unpaid. Ito po yung tinatransact natin ngayon. So that's $15. So processing, ibig sabihin, hindi na po ako i-demo dito guys kung nagbayad man ako hindi. So you can check na lang guys. Makikita nyo yung status dito na completed na. Once na confirm na lang yung payment, ang status po niyan is completed na. Then you will click yung operation dito, which is yung view keys. Makikita nyo yun at doon nila isasend yung key mismo na binili nyo dito sa VIP SCD key na worth $15 lang. $15 is around 50 is nasa 700 something lang o 750 pesos lang. Okay Xtian, paano siya i-activate? So once na nakuha nyo na yung key dito sa VIP SCD key, i-activate po natin later. So ayan, nakita nyo, meron po ditong watermark na activate Windows. Go to settings to activate Windows. So yun po yung gagawin natin ngayon. I-activate na po natin yung Windows. Yung kanina bumili po tayo sa SCD key or VIP SCD key ng legit na Windows. So malalaman natin dito kung legit nga, di ba? So before ko i-activate guys, Xtian, bakit di mo tinuro kung paano mag-install ng Windows and so on? Maraming beses ko na kasing ginawa yan dito sa channel ko. So you better watch yung mga previous Windows 10 or Windows 11 na step-by-step guide. So nandun na po yun guys. Hindi ko na po uulitin dito kasi haba yung video. So for this, ang gagawin na lang natin is i-activate po natin yung Windows yung binili po natin sa VIP SCD key. Okay, type lang natin dito sa may search bar is activate. Yan, activation. Yun, lumalabas na yung activation settings. Okay, so click po natin yun. After that, nandito na po tayo sa may activation settings. Hahanapin lang po natin yung change product key. So yan, nakita nyo guys, Windows 10 Pro, yun po in-install natin. Windows is not activated. Okay? So gagawin natin, ipipaste po natin dito. Yung change product key. Yan, click nyo lang yan. Then dito po natin ipipaste. So next natin. So check nyo lang yan guys ha. Itong activate Windows na watermark na yan, mawawala po yan once activated na. So activate natin. And there you have it guys. Windows is activated. So we've activated this copy of Windows. Yan. So close natin. So check natin to. Alright. So yan guys. Windows 10 Pro. So activation. So Windows is activated with a digital license. So yan po yung binili natin sa VIP SCD key. Yun yung nag-purchase po ako kanina. Guys, this is a legit 100% genuine po to. So ayan, makikita nyo, na-activate po natin yung digital license ng Windows na to. So I'll put the link guys, yung mismong code. So you can check na lang yung link doon ni VIP SCD key. So VIP SCD key, thank you for sponsoring this video. Hey guys, what's up? Xtian here and welcome to another video. So in this video, tuturuan ko kayo ulit paano mag-build ng computer, but this time featuring the Asus ROG Strix B660F gaming Wi-Fi motherboard, and we're putting the Intel Core i5 12400 12th Gen CPU. So we're on the mid-range segment ngayon. So this will be a step-by-step tutorial on how to build a gaming PC for Intel naman. And habang nagbi-build ako, I might share some tips along the way para sa mga first time and even some other builders na may prior experience na on building PCs. Baka sakaling makatulong. Pero bago ang lahat, let's talk about the parts that we're using para sa build na ito. First is with the motherboard. We have here the Asus ROG Strix B660F gaming Wi-Fi. It supports the new 12th generation Intel desktop CPUs with the LGA 1700 socket, has a great power delivery and thermal design as you can see. Madaming heatsinks, and being on the ROG Strix line, despite the fact na mid-range chipset ito, hindi naman mukhang tinipid sa features. We have a lot of connectivity options, onboard Intel Wi-Fi 6, 2.5GB LAN, PCIe Gen 5, and also DDR5 memory support. So both relatively new standards are present. And also, tatlong M.2 slots which only supports up to PCIe Gen 4 devices. Other features na gusto ko sa motherboard na to, and even on other Asus motherboards, is yung kanilang M.2 Q-Latch system. Although I don't see here the PCIe quick release button, but we still have Aura Sync RGB and also 3 ARGB Gen 2 header plus 1 RGB header. Next is our CPU, which is the Intel Core i5 12400. So unlike yung mga higher end chips ng 12th gen, which features both P cores and E cores, the Intel Core i5 12400 only has 6 performance cores and no efficiency cores. Pero may multi-threading pa rin, so we have 12 threads. For gaming, I think this is going to be fine, especially on our target resolution of 1080p high to ultra settings. And medyo mura siya compared to the competition sa ngayon, so kung plano mo mag-build ng mid-range gaming PC on a budget, this could be an option din. For our cooler, we have the Intel stock cooler for now, pero pwede ka din namang bumili ng aftermarket cooler kung di mo trip or gusto yung itsura nito. Since di naman tayo mag-overclock, we can use the included stock cooler for this CPU. For the graphics card naman, we have the Asus Radeon RX 6600 dual fan. Since 1080p high to ultra nga ang possibly target natin dito, we can at least get a GPU that is cost effective but at the same time can literally game on. It has a 8GB of GDDR6 VRAM, PCIe Gen 4 support, 1 HDMI 2.1 and tatlong DisplayPort 1.4a as outputs, plus a decent backplate din. Then for our memory or RAM, we have the G.skill Trident Z5 RGB 32GB kit, 16GB x 2, which supports speeds up to 6,000 megatransfers per second. Since DDR5 ito, so almost double the speeds na ito ng mga common DDR4 kits ngayon. Although, medyo mahal pa yung DDR5 sa ngayon, once there are more products na nag-a-adapt na ng DDR5 and supplies as well, prices will go down just like yung mga GPU ngayon. So we have here a simple heatsink, medyo iniban nila yung dating style ng Trident Z nung DDR4 pa. But still, have their signature light bar sa yung heatsink sa taas. They have available kits from 32GB and from 5200 up to 6400 mega transfer per second. On the storage, we have the KLEVV CRAS C720 1TB Nvme SSD. Although this is only PCI Gen 3, this one has SLC caching, DRAM cache, and excellent speeds. Review ko na din ito before and you can watch that on the channel just in case you're looking for a new SSD. Powering the entire build would be the Cooler Master MWE 650W V2 80+ bronze. As you can see, we have a 650W power supply which has a 80+ bronze efficiency rating. More than enough para sa ating components. Features such as flat black, non-modular cables, DC to DC circuit design, active power factor correction, and 120mm cooling fan with a hydrodynamic bearing, which promises longer lifespan and lower noise levels during operation. And finally, for our case, we have a Cooler Master Masterbox 500. It is a mid-tower case, may mesh front panel pero hindi buong front but on the lower part lang. But pwede na rin for decent airflow. Also comes with the ARGB fans and accent lighting na parang mukhang futuristic ang design. There's a large internal space para sa malalaking components like GPUs and air coolers. And motherboard supports up to 8TX. I also like the fact that many aspects ng case are toolless and removable for ease of building, such as the top panel and screwless tempered glass side panel. Very versatile kumbaga. So ngayon, tapos ko na i-discuss kung anong mga parts ba ang gagamitin natin for this build. Now, it's the time for us to actually start on the building process. Pero ano-ano nga ba yung mga kailangan gawin at kailangan natin when building PCs? First is we have to prepare the parts and tools na gagamitin natin for the build. Like the components na naka-unbox na para madalian na kunin at ilagay. Also, yung mga tools na kailangan natin like yung cable ties for the cable management, wire cutter, maliit na screwdriver with magnetic tip. Importante yan para hindi ka mahirapan magtornilyo ng mga maliliit na screw like yung M.2 screws. For example, cotton rounds or yung cotton balls just in case kailangan natin. Yung mga excess na thermal paste, magnetic parts, tray para sa maliliit na tornilyo. And also a big screwdriver with magnetic tip pa rin just in case para sa mga hard to reach areas. Recommendation ko lang ito mga to para mas madali kayo makapag-build. Now, it's time to prepare the case. Usually, ginagawa ko before everything else, kakalasin ko muna lahat ng pwedeng makalas sa case. Like the side panels, front panels, and i-release lahat ng cables mula sa pagkakatali kung meron man so that it is easier to manage pag nagbi-build na. Kadalasan pag bumibili kayo ng case, may mga kasamang tornilyo yan and accessories gaya ng mga cable ties. So pwede nyo na silang ilagay dito sa magnetic parts tray natin para mas madali ma-access later on. Also, before you touch anything delicate gaya ng mga motherboard or RAM or GPU, make sure you discharge yourself from the so-called static electricity or ESD as they call it. Kaya may anti-static wrist straps then just to make sure, but I'm not using one currently so I'm touching a metal surface na may malaking surface area para ma-discharge ako from ESD since it might damage some delicate components gaya ng mga motherboard or RAM due to a sudden burst of energy being passed from you to the component. Kaya there's a reason why components like motherboards and GPUs are covered in anti-static bags pag in-unbox mo. That is to protect them from static discharges. Now, installing the CPU. First, i-unbox natin yung CPU along with the Intall stock cooler we're using for this build. Check nyo kung may pre-applied guys, huwag nyong hahawakan yan. And then get the CPU itself. Make sure na hawak mo yung CPU upright with the labels being readable and on the correct side. There are indicators such as this triangle printed on the IHS. Also, keyed din siya so you can see may mga maliliit na butas. Parang puzzle lang yan that you have to match to get in correctly. Also, when opening the socket lever, make sure na hindi mo tatamaan yung mga pins on the socket since there's high risk of bending it and mahirap ibalik yan pag nagkamali ka. So, na-experience ko na po yan guys before. And as you can see, pag tama yung position ng CPU, you can just drop it there carefully. No need to wiggle it to check. Ngayon, we have to remove the protective cover nung socket. Yung iba, sinasara na lang yung CPU socket lever and then hinahayaan na lang magpop up yung cover ng socket since itutulak ng pressure yung cover out of its place. Pero what I like to do is just to be on the safe side. Just remove it by hand before closing the lever. Kasi malakas din yung pressure nung lever na yon compared to older sockets. Then after removing it, you can simply close the lever by just doing the reverse kung paano mo inopen yun. So pro tip guys, put the protective cover somewhere safe like the motherboard box. Baka sakaling kailanganin mo pag magpapawarranty ka ng motherboard or ibebenta mo without the CPU to protect the pins. Now for the memory or RAM installation. As you see, meron lang tayong dalawang sticks pero may 4 slots na available sa motherboard. So para ma-determine mo kung saan mo i-install, look for the diagram on the motherboard PCB. Doon usually nakaprint yan kung anong order of installation. That is important kasi if you install it in the incorrect order, it will cause you performance since di mo mayu-utilize yung dual channel capability ng memory controller mo. Look for this diagram where it says first or may mga asterisk dyan, which is usually the second and the fourth slot from the CPU. Aside from that, make sure the locking latches are open. Sa ibang motherboards, meron yan on both sides but on some on one side lang. Check also the pins kung align ba, may hati yan sa gitna which indicates kung paano ba dapat nilalagay yan. There's only one way correct. Then push it hanggang sa makarinig ka ng click or yung satisfying click. And see if the lock nga yung locking latch and kung seated ba na maayos yung RAM. Repeat the process on the other stick and you're done. Next is installing the SSD. Since Nvme drive ito, we have to use the M.2 mounts instead of plugging SATA cables. First, we have to remove the heatsink. Then, tanggalin yung protective plastic film from the thermal pad. Importante yan kasi pag hindi mo tinanggal, iinit yung SSD mo and mag-overheat siya, resulting in significant performance degradation. Insert the SSD on a 45-degree angle dun sa M.2 slot. May notch yan so there's only one way around. Then secure it using the quick latch system ni Asus, which I like since no need to screw it anymore, mas madali tanggalin. Pero pag walang ganyan, you can use the provided M.2 screw na nasa motherboard box or yung isa iba nasa motherboard na mismo. Also, huwag niyong kakalimutan i-remove yung protective film ng thermal pad sa heatsink so that heat can transfer well from the SSD and then put the heatsink back in its place. On the cooler installation, may iba't ibang paraan ng pag-install ng cooler lalo na kung aftermarket yan. So you better read the manuals kung meron man. But in this case, we are using the Intall stock cooler and it doesn't come with any manual so here's how. Again, check nyo kung may pre-applied na thermal paste. Pag wala, maglagay kayo sa ibabaw ng CPU ng konti. Check the locking pins kung nasa open position. Napipihit yan. Make sure the cable is routed kung saan maabot niya yung CPU fan header. Put the cooler in and then to secure it, push nyo lang yung locking pins niya on a criss-cross pattern. Pwede nyong ipagsabay diagonally para pantay yung distribution ng thermal paste sa CPU nyo. In this case, kailangan siyang itulak talaga until you hear a click. Then make sure na nakalock yung mga pins by checking at the bottom kung nakapasok na nga ba yung retention pins niya sa PCB. Guys, medyo challenging siya on the first try. Pwede kasi yan mabali ng mga pins so ingat lang. Dahil pag nabali yan, mahirapan ka na i-secure yung cooler mo. Then, you just have to plug in the 4-pin fan connector to the CPU fan header. Usually, may label yan sa motherboard PCB kung saan. Next is installing the motherboard on the case. So, check the screws kung ano yung angkop sa motherboard. Usually, merong multiple sizes ng screws na kasama yung accessory pack ng case. It is either one of these two. Usually, it's the smaller one. Kasi itong malaki, usually for the power supply or hard drive mounting. And then, ito naman is yung for the motherboard or 2.5-inch SSD mounting. But in this case, we'll choose the bigger one. Kasi guys, itong Cooler Master case, ang ginagamit po nila is yung power supply na screw. Pero sa ibang case guys, usually yung pang 2.5-inch na SSD na screw. I-test fit nyo muna para sure. Putting it in the case, since may pre-installed I/O shield itong motherboard, we don't need to put one beforehand sa case. Pero kung wala pa, make sure na nailagay mo muna yon. Kasi guys, masakit sa loob isipin pagkatapos ka na mag-build tapos nakalimutan mo yon, you have to remove the motherboard all over again. Di ba? So make sure na naka-align din yung motherboard sa mga standoffs or screw points. And walang sobrang standoffs na nakamount sa case dahil pwedeng maging cause yan ng short. Then, screw nyo lang guys. Ulitin ko lang, criss-cross pattern ulit to. Parang yung sa cooler, yung pag-apply ng cooler. Make sure pag inuna nyo yung sa may upper right, then dun sa may lower left. Okay, basta diagonal, criss-cross pattern lang din. Then, screw it gamit yung pinili nating screw kanina. Then, dito magiging useful yung magnetic tip ng screwdriver mo. Next is connecting the front panel ng case to the motherboard. Ito maraming nalilito dito pero madali lang kung tutuusin. As you see, we have some cables here like yung USB 3.2 Type A header which is usually obvious kung saan i-connect dahil isa lang yan doon natutugma sa cable na yon. Then the front audio jacks which are located usually on the motherboard's bottom left side. May pin layout din ito na very specific, there's very low chances of connecting it incorrectly. Then the 5 volts ARGB cable connectors, if yung case nyo, meron po siyang built-in na hub for addressable 5 volts or yung ARGB which has the 3-pin layout instead of 4 kasi that's for the 12 volts RGB na i-connect mo dun sa ARGB header ng motherboard. Remember guys, 5 volts, 3-pin po yan. Yung 12 volts po, 4-pin. And for the others like the power button and LEDs, usually standard naman ito ngayon kaya dapat pinagsama-sama na ito sa isang cable. Parang yung sa NZXT H510 na mga case. But since dito sa mga case na ito, and probably on most other cases, magkakaiwalay pa rin. So mas maganda na malaman nyo na rin kung paano. Usually, labeled din sila sa motherboard PCB so may guide na kayo on how to connect it. Yung polarity is relevant lalo na sa mga LEDs dahil one way lang ang polarity nito kaya may positive or plus and negative or minus symbol. The rest, polarity doesn't matter na dahil switches lang naman yon. So for the power LED and yung HDD LED, you can see na sinunod natin yung polarity which is the positive being on the outer side. Ang nakataob yung labels. But for others like yung power switch and reset switch, kung meron man, like I said kanina, the polarity doesn't matter. So, kahit mabaliktad mo, okay lang yan. Basta importante yung power LED and yung HDD LED. Now, for the power supply installation, again, we'll pick the right screws, which is itong nasa kamay ko ngayon. In this case, we have to mount the power supply with the fan facing downwards kasi nandun yung intake niya. Slot it in sa case from the side na yung nakikita nyo, then secure it by screwing the 4 sides. Guys, yung ibang case, pwedeng ilalagay nyo sa likod, pwede nyo yung ipapadaan dito sa may gilid like yung ginagawa ko ngayon. So, depende po yan sa design ng case. So, check nyo lang yung manual paano ilalagay yung power supply. On the cables naman, pick what you need to connect. Usually, the 24-pin ATX connector and the EPS CPU power connectors. Also, may GPU din tayo na nagre-require ng 8-pin PCIe power. So, we have that as well. The rest, itatago na lang natin yan mamaya. So, itong power supply na napili ko ngayon is non-modular po siya. So, ibig sabihin, mapapa-challenge po tayo sa cable management mamaya. If you choose a fully modular na power supply, piliin nyo lang yung mga cables na gagamitin nyo. Ngayon, padadaanin natin yung 24-pin into this cable grommet papunta sa motherboard. Guys, i-reroute nyo na kagad para maganda yung pagkaka-manage natin mamaya ng kable para malinis tingnan sa loob ng case. Then, the 8-pin CPU power dito sa may taas, doon nyo po i-reroute. Tapos, usually, doon malapit yung mga connectors for the 8+4-pin CPU power connectors. Meron ibang motherboard, 4+4 lang po yan. Sa mga mid-range, meron na po silang 8+4-pin. So, pwede nyo naman kabit yung 4+4 lang or 8-pin lang. Then, yung PCIe power cable sa ilalim natin padadaanin para malapit yung exit niya patungo sa graphics card. Then, i-connect natin sila on their respective ports. The 24-pin motherboard power, then the 8+4-pin CPU power. And gaya nga nasabi ko, yung PCIe power cable is sa ilalim ng PSU shroud padadaanin para malinis siya tingnan. Next is the graphics card. First, kailangan muna natin i-check kung saan layer ng PCIe slot siya lalapat so that we know that PCIe slot covers yung tatanggalin natin sa case. In this case, and usually sa mga ATX ng form factor na motherboard, second slot from the top yung mga PCIe slot ng GPU. Bilangin nyo lang, second slot, for example, yung GPU na gagamitin natin ngayon is dual slot design. Okay, ang tatanggalin nyo yung second slot and yung third slot. So we have to remove two covers dahil two slot design yung graphics card natin. Then we have to open the PCIe card lock by pressing this downwards para ma-unlock. Then install the card. Make sure na naka-align yung card sa socket para madali lang ilagay. Then push nyo hanggang ma-lock yung socket lock. Make sure na walang exposed pins sa GPU socket, which indicates the card is seated pretty well. Kasi baka mamaya pag meron hindi mag-output ng display yan. And then screw nyo sa case so that it will be secured and hindi luluwag ng basta-basta, and then connect nyo yung 8-pin PCIe power sa card. We're almost done guys at this stage, pero bago ako mag-cable management, ititas ko muna kung nagboot ba ito or nagpo-post or yung power on self-test. Kasi mahirap pag nag-cable manage ka na tapos di pala nagbo-boot yung system, di ba? So at this stage, kahit papano, madali mo pang matatanggal kung may sira na part. Make sure you have the PSU power switch turned on, syempre, then connect the power and display cords. Then turn the system on. Usually in the first power on, medyo matagal siya bago mag-post kasi parang nagka-calibrate or nagre-retrain yung memory and yung ibang components. Kumbaga, kinikilala nila ang isa't isa bago mag-output ng display. Kaya minsan nagkakaroon ng restarts. Pero pag walang display after some period of time like more than 2 to 5 minutes, you might have to check kung tama ba yung ginawa mo. Like yung GPU ba nakasaksak na maayos or sa display port or yung sa HDMI cable nyo, kung maayos ba yung pagkakasalpak ng memory or yung GPU and so on. But as we see, nag-boot siya. So we then check kung detected ba correctly lahat ng components na nilagay natin. So makikita nyo yan guys sa BIOS. Did you know, i-double check yung mga components na nilagay natin kung nababasa ba sila. Such as yung memory and yung storage. Ayan, nakita nyo, detected yung dalawang RAM sticks natin as well as yung Nvme SSD. So all goods tayo. So dito guys, pwede nyo na rin in-enable dito yung XMP profiles ng memory kits nyo and configure many things. And last for the cable management. So ito, madalas kong nai-skip out sa mga previous videos or live PC build ko. But now, here's a quick guide on how I usually approach it. So we'll be using a cable ties or zip ties. Usually kasama ito sa mga accessory packs na mga case or nabibili din naman sa mga hardware stores. Pwede din tong mga pantali ng cables or yung twist ties kung tawagin. Pero I preferred yung cable tie o zip ties kasi mas malinis siya tingnan. Madali lang siya tanggalin yung twist ties. So kadalasan din yung mga cases ngayon meron ng mga cable management tie points. So doon nyo sila ikakabit. Which is itong mga to. So dyan natin itatali yung mga cable ties nyo or twist ties para ma-secure na yung cable sa case. Then usually, pag sama-samahin lang natin yung mga similarly routed cable. So, i-group natin. Like for example, for the front panel lang. For the PSU 24-pin, 24-pin lang. Okay? So, itatali using either cable or yung twist ties. Then, itatali natin against the tie points. So, dun yung itatali yun. Okay? May mga cable tie points. Kaya nga, magandang case yung maraming cable tie points para mas malinis sila tingnan. Then the other cables like the EPS CPU power connector, pwedeng i-tuck in na lang dun sa gilid away to secure it with cable ties as well. So after that, cut the excess cabling with the wire cutters. Okay, so be careful lang dito baka kasi mamaya yung mga cable na pala ng system maputol mo. So make sure na yung pinuputol mo lang is yung mga excess cable ng zip ties. So, yan guys. Kanya-kanya ng diskarte yan. So, but usually, ganito yung ginagawa ko para mas malinis tingnan. At madali maisara yung side panel ng case. Kung nakikita nyo, yung mga excess cables ng PSU, tinatago ko po sa ilalim pagka yung non-modular power supply ang pinili natin. Kaya mas maganda, if you have the budget, get the full modular na power supply. Yan, tinatago ko po sa ilalim or beside the hard drive tray. Unfortunately guys, I didn't have enough time to benchmark this build. So here's the finished build. Montage na lang for the showcase. Maybe in the future, I might have a similar subscriber build na pwede natin ipakita yung benchmark. Baka may magtanong sa inyo, Christian, how about after ng PC build? Ano po yung gagawin natin? So may ginawa na kasi yung video doon, yung paano install yung mga drivers and Windows. You can watch it na lang guys. Okay, paulit-ulit ko na po siyang ginagawa dito sa channel. So you can watch it na lang. Magli-link na lang po ako ng link dyan sa may video description. So yun lang. Salamat sa panonood nitong build ko with the 12th Gen Core i5 12400 featuring the Asus ROG Strix B660F Gaming Wi-Fi Motherboard. Kung meron kayong natutunan dito, ayan, please share it with your friends na wala pang alam sa PC. Definitely guys, marami po silang matutunan dito. And yun, so there you have it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Ako pala sa Xtian. So like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you on my next PC build video. Bye guys!